getting an update today and speaking to people, that United definitely want him, are in talks. Yeah, they have somebody who hasn't reached his peak, who is still a young player. They want to obviously extract as much money as possible. United are confident. They don't feel like, hopefully it's not overconfidence, they don't feel like they have real competition. You know, a lot of clubs like him, but in terms of having the budget and having the space for him, they feel like they've got a clear run at him.
Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of the Stretford Paddock Chat. I'm Kirsty Ange and I'm joined by my lovely co-host Angelina Kelly. Great to be back for our episode 3.
Yes, good to be back.
Lots of transfer talks to talk about today.
I can't keep up at this point. I don't even know if I should get excited, if I should even allow myself to think that some of them could happen, but something's got to happen soon, surely.
Yeah, I think quite a lot of fans are getting a bit touchy, aren't they? Thinking it's a bit slow at the moment, so we'll be talking about that. And we are joined by our lovely guest, Sam Pilger, who is a wonderful journalist and author who I'm sure many of you will know. Thank you so much for joining us today, Sam.
My pleasure to be here. Thank you.
How are you finding the off-season? If
Yeah,
you can even call it that.
Well,
it's
no,
so
that's right. I mean, football writers, or this is when it gets as busy, really, when people are demanding information about transfers. So yeah, but yeah, it's nice as a United fan not to have your weekend ruined by United.
True, that's a good way to look at it.
Enjoy the sunshine and so on. But yeah, no, it's been busy. Yeah.
And before we speak about transfer news and looking ahead to next season, for you as a United fan, how would you sum up that season?
Oh, geez. Well, I'm old enough to remember the late 80s when Ferguson arrived, and I think 88, 89 was particularly bad, but that has to be the worst one last year, just for absolute disappointment, because it started obviously with the 3 big signings of Varane, Sancho and Ronaldo. United finished second. We genuinely thought there's a title challenge, and then to finish 6th, lowest points total in 30 years, most goals conceded since 1978-79. It was just awful. I was at the last 2 games away to Brighton and away to Crystal Palace in the flesh, and it was painful. I've seen United teams play badly. I've never seen United teams give up, not try, and at least you can be bad but you can try, and they just given up. They didn't care. Checked out. It was awful to see, that cliche on the beach. They were far beyond the beach. They did not care, and that was painful. I was there with my teenage son, and I'm lucky enough to have seen a lot of success, and he was just distraught, and he was just like, this is awful. I was like, yeah, but it'll get better, I hope.
I think what was hard as well is with all the changes, Ollie left, Rangnick came in. That was a huge job for him as well, and I think naturally as a United fan you think, right, we need to be at least reaching top 4, but really that was such a huge job for him to fill, wasn't it?
Yeah, and looking back really, the slight worry is that John Motar has actually appointed Erik ten Hag. He was the big fan of Ralph Rangnick. That's the slight worry, and I feel we were slightly hoodwinked by Rangnick, and I include myself, because he'd only managed for 2 years of the previous 10. He wasn't a manager to motivate. That squad needed to be motivated, to be lifted. And he did none of that. In fact, he was dreadful. He was, that horrible phrase in football, a fraud. I wouldn't use it against him, but he really didn't provide what he was meant to. And the players obviously didn't like him, weren't interested. And they deserve criticism for that, but the club deserved criticism putting in a manager in place who was completely ill-suited for it. He was a sporting director, asked to become a firefighter, a manager, And there are people, I'm not suggesting Sam Allardyce, but there are people that are prone, are good at that job, that come in mid-season and lift people and save teams, normally from relegation, not to get in the top 4. And he was completely ill-suited. He just was out of his depth. So, I'm glad we've seen the end of that season. And
the question is, are you happy with Ten Hag's appointment?
I think so. Unfortunately, there wasn't really a somebody waiting, a huge saviour. I think the choice came down to Pochettino and Ten Hag, and I think Ten Hag probably. I think Pochettino. He's just been let go by PSG. He felt like yesterday's man, a bit tired. He'd been sacked by Tottenham. maybe he could have had a revival, but it feels like even though Ten Hag is younger than him, Ten Hag's trajectory is on the up. He looks he has that, hopefully that big jump in him, that big job in him really after the Netherlands. So yeah, but I mean at the time people were saying, well, who can do a better job? And unfortunately, there wasn't somebody out there, Unfortunately, Manchester City and Liverpool have the best two managers in the world, and they certainly weren't going to come to United.
I mean, to go into United, he's got 3 successive Eredivisie titles.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it shows that he obviously does have respect from a lot of his players, and he's done well going into such a big job. This is probably going to be the biggest job so far.
Yeah, I know, but I think that the jump from the Netherlands is such a huge one, because if you look at Frank de Boer, won 4 consecutive titles, I think, with Ajax, the same, and was a disaster at Inter Milan, and then was a disaster at Crystal Palace, where Jose Mourinho famously called him the worst manager in Premier League history because he lasted 4 games. So he had actually better track record than Ten Hag in Dutch football. So I think we know as well, Memphis Depay, Daley Blind, players and managers coming from Dutch football is no Donny van der Beek is no guarantee at all. We've seen with Jaap Stam and Ruud van Nistelrooy a few years earlier that players can make the step up. But is the Netherlands? Netherlands is a huge. Produces great footballers, but it also, the step up can be huge as well, and we wait to see if he's man enough. I think the one thing that gives me hope is actually, and I think United wouldn't have just appointed him on what he did in the Netherlands, but rather what he did in the Champions League. In the Champions League he was incredible. Should have got to the final in 2019. In the group stages this year, won 6 out of 6 games. If you look at the goal scoring and the stats, they're so positive, they're so attacking. They beat Real Madrid and Juventus a few years ago. So Borussia Dortmund this year. So that's what United will hope, that they're getting that manager. Because beating average teams in the Netherlands is not really the greatest testing ground for United. But the Champions League, that gives United some hope.
Well, he's got a huge job now to rebuild United. So I think we should probably start off with the man that everyone's talking about at the moment, Frenkie de Jong.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's been a lot of chat. I think a lot of United fans are probably getting a little bit wound up, wondering what's taking so long. I know that a lot of people are saying that, Barcelona, with their financial difficulties, they only want to, is it 83 million? At least?
Well, I don't know that for a fact, but yeah, they have somebody who hasn't reached his peak, who is still a young player. They want to obviously extract as much money as possible. Getting an update today and speaking to people, that United definitely want him, are in talks. We all know that, but they're determined not to overpay. We get flippant, just pay it, doesn't matter. But, we're talking 10, 20 million differences. That can be spent on another right back. It cannot be spent at all. These are huge amounts of money. United are confident. They don't feel like, hopefully it's not overconfidence, they don't feel like they have real competition for Frenkie de Jong. A lot of clubs like him, but in terms of having the budget and having the space for him, they feel like they've got a clear run at him, that they might be tripped up with that. They want to pay a reasonable price, and of course they're letting it be known we won't be held to ransom. There are other options. We're keeping on track with that. We're not putting all our eggs in one basket with him. But yeah, it's. I think there was initially a doubt about whether he wanted to come. He was very happy. Barcelona was his dream team. I can understand that, the allure of Barcelona and the Camp Nou, but now he's aware that they want to sell him. They briefed the Spanish press relentlessly to please get the message, we like you, but we're willing to let you go. I think he's understood that. Being reunited with Ten Hag appeals to him. I think he would come now. So yeah, it's money talks, like in everything in life, and I don't know. I think they're quite a bit. I don't think it will happen in the next couple of days. I think they're quite far apart in terms of what they want to pay, because United know Barcelona have financial troubles, so they don't want to be held to ransom. So, but yeah, I am optimistic, and I think United believe they'll get it done, but we will see.
Do you think at all it shows that maybe we've got a bit of a financial difficulty in terms of our budget on what we want to spend on this transfer window?
Yeah, well, absolutely. And I think that was the thing with Darwin Núñez. I think he would have chosen Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp anyway. I can understand that. But yeah, United were interested in him when he was a 40, 50 million euro, when he went to 85 to 100 million euro. No, they didn't want to spend that. And that's an awful lot of money to spend on one player who's had one good season. So they stepped back with that. Yeah, I mean, there's always a budget. There's always compromises to be made. I think De Jong, if he signs, would be the most expensive signing. I don't think, I think that could be up to 65, 80 million euros. I don't think that would be their big signing, and then they would look to build around that with some astute, smart signings that we haven't seen many of, really. We've gone for the obvious names and paid a lot of money. They're prepared to do that with De Jong because he's such a good player and he's got so many years ahead of him. But yeah, they can't do that in every position, so they have to be a bit smarter with the money, with their budget.
Which areas, talking about, where we can spend money, where we might need to be a little bit more careful and things like that. What do you see as like the priority areas that need for us to even have a look in of just having a comfortable season and it not being a total write-off? What maybe like 3 positions or areas like spring to your mind as necessity?
Well, unfortunately, from what I understand from the club, priorities are midfield and attack. That is what I've been told. However, of course, what was the big problem last year? The defence. The defence was dreadful. As I said, United can see the most goals in a league season since 45 years. So I think the hope there is that there's enough good players in the defence that Ten Hag can work with them. But I think in terms to answer your question, I think obviously a central midfielder, 2 central midfielders. United have lost Pogba and Matic. Mata played centrally as well, not really a midfielder or more attacking. So I think United have been crying out for an established central defensive midfielder. I think De Jong is good in possession. I don't think he's a classic CDM. So I think United will be looking for somebody else as well. So maybe 2 midfielders, and then there's so many you go around. I mean, obviously a striker. I mean, Ronaldo was incredible last year, but he comes with his limitations. That was the interest in Núñez. They might look to add to that. But then the hope is that they have the talent there to work with. If Marcus Rashford came back to form, that horrible cliche would be like a new signing, wouldn't it? Really. There's been some talk with Pau Torres and Timber at Ajax, but I think Harry Maguire had a dreadful season. Is that terminal, or can he be nobody doubted his place a year ago. He'd just come off a fantastic Euro 2020. Can he have another season like that? It was almost like Varane was brought to complement Maguire, and then they had that would be a fantastic partnership. It obviously didn't work out like that. So as far as I would prioritise probably something in defence. I think United obviously interested in a right back. They're prepared to sell Aaron Wan-Bissaka. They've grown tired of his lack of development. He's on the market essentially, and they'll probably stick by Dalot. But Dalot, is sort of he's okay, and that's the problem, isn't it? But they have to have priorities. So I think there's a spine, isn't it? Really, you're looking central defence, central midfielder, and a striker.
I mean, talking of more attacking players, strikers, etc. There's been quite a few names in the mix, and I guess one name that's been linked is obviously Christian Eriksen. Champions League football is reportedly not a priority, which winner for us. So, and it seems like a couple of clubs are interested. I was always thinking maybe a return to Spurs could be on the cards. Me personally, I'm not too sure if it's really going to be the right fit for him. Where do you stand on Eriksen to Man United?
Yeah, I mean, getting some information today, United are definitely in for him, have made him an offer. I think that's confirmed. They're aware he has other options, as he would, a player of his quality. They think he's a great player. They think he'll enhance the squad. They're not building. They don't have plans to build the squad around him. They want him. They've made an offer, and they think it'd be a great addition, especially with Juan Mata leaving. I think he's 30. His game isn't based on huge pace and physicality. I think he could have 3-4 more great years in the Premier League. I think I saw a stat that since February, when he started playing for Brentford again, only Kevin De Bruyne and Odegaard at Arsenal have created more chances. And this is for Brentford, a very good side. So you think... I think after what happened to him and coming back into football, I think, it'd make a great story at United. I think United have seen a player who's at a good age at 30, who doesn't have...
And of course, Ten Hag worked with him when he was doing his training and stuff like that, didn't he, at Ajax? So I guess there's that relationship already
That's right,
there.
I mean, he's Danish, but he came through Ajax. He came through that system, so there's some parallel lives there, experiences there. So I think, there's a slight... Yeah, he's still 30. I mean, there's a slight thinking, hang on, is this Cavani or Falcao again? So a player that's had his best years. But he's 30, and I think that's relatively peak years for a footballer.
Yeah, it's not totally over the hill. I think that was one of my biggest concerns. Is we already have, and again, it's no disrespect to Ronaldo because he is 37, but we all know that he is not a normal 37-year-old. Call it as it is. But I think that was my worry as to if we do bring in other, attacking options. If we bring in a name that's maybe a little bit too old, are we really solving the problem, or are we just putting, a plaster on it for now and just kind of getting through? Do we need somebody who's, got a few more years? And I think he's a good combination of having that experience, not being too young and kind of being thrown into the deep end in this, toxic situation, you could say. He's got some experience and he's not totally over the hill.
I think you're right. I think it would be an astute signing because Frenkie de Jong, as good a player as he is, he hasn't played in the Premier League before, so he'd need to bed in. I mean, Christian Eriksen's been one of the Premier League's best players over the last 7 or 8 years. So I think it's quite a smart signing. You don't have to negotiate with a club as well. He's not under contract. He's completely free agent. So, United have told me he has other options. The only hope for United is that they're not more attractive than United. And despite United's current status, there still aren't too many more attractive options, but we'll see.
I think that's the thing that kind of keeps me going because, there's a lot of opposition fans that I'll speak to and, they say, United have not got the same pull as they used to, blah, blah, blah. And, I do get that to an extent, but I think you still can't deny the fact that as much as it's been difficult, it is still, we still have some kind of attraction of being, a big club that can pay well and maybe there is a chance of some kind of success, I guess. But then it's, all these names that are being linked to, there's quite a few that have seemed to have just kind of disappeared in the... I feel like we've been linked with everyone, basically, and especially if you have played, in the Netherlands, then 100%.
Yes.
If you played for Ajax, then you go into Man United. But one name is Declan Rice. That seems to have all kind of disappeared. And I know, maybe Man United was not top of his priority list, and I feel like David Moyes would probably rather cut off his own toe than sell us a good player. But that all seems to have kind of vanished about anything to do with him.
I think United would love him. I think that's just money. I think he's under contract for, I'm not quite sure, for at least 2 or 3 more years. I think West Ham have made him this ridiculous contract that he's not likely to sign. I think he will move on. He's ambitious, of course. West Ham will hit a ceiling. They've had a great season. But while he's at this position of his contract, West Ham have talked about 120, 150 million, which is, of course, ridiculous. United won't pay anything near that. And I think that's the problem. As I said earlier, United have previously paid these large sums. There are smart options out there in central midfield for 30, 40 million that will be just as good. But I think Rice... I can't see him coming to United this summer now.
Lee's Calvin Phillips at one point as well. There was talk about potentially could he be on the list, but it now looks like City as well are interested in him. So is he off the cards as well?
I think so. I think from my understanding was he didn't. It was the fact that he was a Leeds boy, a Leeds United fan with his family. It just wouldn't countenance it. And to be fair, unfortunately, if in this market at this time, if you've got City and United who both want you, you're going to go and play for the champions and Pep Guardiola.
How times have changed.
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, I can understand that, but I think he flirted with the idea of United.
Yeah.
But he just, I mean, other people have done it before. Alan Smith was a big Leeds favourite, and he came to United. Did okay, didn't work out hugely, got that injury. But yeah, I just think I don't think he wanted to enrage the Leeds fans and have that. Obviously, Eric Cantona, of course, he was briefly at Leeds, hated then at Leeds, but came to United, and he just, I think people were willing to make that compromise. Okay, I'll be hated by Leeds, but I'll win the Premier League. But at the moment, he's not got that.
It's an okay price to pay if you get an X amount of silverware and a few little reward bonuses in your bank account for doing so well. Exactly. It makes sense, I guess.
And do you think any Ajax players will want to follow Ten Hag? Because obviously you've touched on Timber and obviously Anthony.
That's
as
right.
well.
Yeah,
that he's been in the press a lot, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So do you think potentially they could follow him?
I think so. Yeah, I think also he's interested in De Ligt, who he managed, who's now at Juventus. And obviously he managed Frenkie de Jong too. So he's very he's got his comfort zone there.
Yeah.
Slightly concerns me in a way. Maybe he'll get the best out of these players. Maybe he'll know what to do with them. But, and as I said before, that step up is a huge step up from the Netherlands to the Premier League. I would be very surprised if there's not a couple of Ajax players or former Ajax players who come, as you said, Timber, Anthony, De Jong. It reminds me of the summer that Louis van Gaal came to United, where United literally were linked with every single member of the Dutch squad because he was coming from the Dutch squad in the World Cup. And in the end, only one came, Daley Blind. So I don't think there won't be 3 or 4. My understanding is he has a gentleman's agreement not to, absolutely gut the club. So there may be 1 or 2,
I mean, I can't imagine Edwin van der Sar would be too chuffed, considering I always think about the messages he put on social media when it was Donny van de Beek, when he was like, oh, look after him. Like, I'm sending him to a great place, and it's like you sent your kid off on this great holiday, and it ends up being an absolute nightmare. So I feel like he's already probably thinking like, right, I've given you one of my players and that's got messed up. I've given you my manager. I'm all right with that, but take any more of my players, we're going to have dramas. Like,
I think the difference there is, Solskjaer, I don't think really wanted Van der Beek. That was a very strange signing.
Yeah, because it was rumoured, but it never really seemed to fit in the jigsaw. No. It was, great name, this will be exciting, but when you actually looked at it, and a lot of my friends kind of called it and said, this is not going to work, this is just not the right fit. It's kind of like you're almost just buying someone for buying sake.
And then he got frustrated, didn't he? Because he wasn't really being played.
And that's one thing I will always say about him is that I don't think he was given a fair shot. But I think even if he had have been given a fair shot, I don't think he fit into Solskjaer's plan anyway.
No.
But it was a shame. And I've heard a few Everton fans have said, like, there's been some good moments from him. But obviously he's not, set the world alight. But at the end of the day, I can't imagine his confidence is that great. You've gone from Ajax to United to, no disrespect, Everton, potentially getting relegated, on loan. It can't be great for him. And I think he's one of the United players. You look at all the talk about Rashford and Sancho and, that how poor they were last season. I mean, I do think Sancho got a little bit more stick than was deserved. But it obviously wasn't just their fault. It was multiple
stuff
ways,
going on behind the scenes.
I think everybody had a role to play in it, but I think Van der Beek for me is one name that I'm kind of hoping alongside.
I think so, and I think United. My understanding is United have made it clear, which is obvious, that his job is to improve the players that are currently there.
Yeah.
And I think that's maybe as exciting. I mean, obviously new signings are always exciting, but it's exciting to think how's he going to improve, because there is such a deep amount of talent there. And
on
you
paper,
think, you think Sancho, Rashford, Van der Beek, even Luke Shaw had a poor season, bringing him back, Maguire. So there are players, you hope that he's going to get the best out of. That's what United want,
And from speaking to United, do they seem pretty confident with this transfer window? Or because I feel like I feel as though United fans are getting frustrated because as well, you know, like if you look at Nunes being signed by City, people probably feel like we've lost out. Regardless of if he had the choice to go to Liverpool, he probably still would have chosen it.
Yeah.
But I think people are thinking, you know, we need to start moving. And I think then when rivals such as City, who are dominating so much, are securing these players, I think fans are then getting more frustrated. So, I mean, do you think that's a real worry that these bigger clubs, well, I say big clubs, they're not bigger clubs in terms of the season, but
more attractive at the moment. Yeah, certainly. I think I think these players are, you know, Haaland and Nunes are making you know, smart decisions. Really, they want to play for great managers in the Champions League. They wouldn't get that at United. United is a bigger club with more fans and a bigger stadium and a richer history, or as rich as Liverpool, certainly more than City. But at the moment, you know, if you didn't have a background with United, and neither did, you wouldn't go there. So I understand that. So I know, you know, there's the tribalism. United fans would get frustrated, but you can understand in both those things. United backed away from Haaland ages ago. They knew that wasn't going to happen. And with Nunes, again, when the price went up, they thought, no, that's not a priority. And even if they'd matched the, you know, Benfica wanted to go into an auction, but United weren't prepared to do that. So, United haven't signed anybody yet, but it's the middle of June, and people go, oh, these clubs have signed players. You know, why haven't United? You know,
I think people need to calm down.
Yeah,
a
no,
bit,
I agree.
You know, Ten Hag's probably barely even unpacked. He's probably still trying to look for somewhere to live. Like, give him a minute. I think. Yeah.
And the thing is, as I said, I mean, these deals are harder to do because United don't have. They had this at the start of a project. They don't know what they're walking into with Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp. They know what they're working into. They think, oh, that looks attractive. Yeah, I want a piece of that. But with United, you have to be persuaded more, and this is why it's taking longer. You know, it's the middle of June. I still think it is still early. You know, and I think, you know, United's squad will be significantly improved by the end. There's no doubt about that.
So what you're saying, Sam, is we need to just calm down.
We need to calm down. Everyone take a chill pill and just let him, like I say, get situated. Probably in Cheshire. Let him just have a minute, and then he'll get to work, I'm sure. Yeah.
And in terms of the culture of United, how would you say that's changed? Do you think United have this like survival culture entitlement, or do you think it's more that some people want to stay silent at the club because they're worried that they might get put aside?
Well, I think it. I mean, you know, there is a bit of a lack of a team spirit there, obviously, in terms of the culture. Yeah, there was a divide in the dressing room last year. That was obvious. You could see that. It did get a bit toxic. They didn't like the interim. They'd lost faith in Solskjaer. They didn't like the interim manager. You know, Ronaldo unsettled the dressing room without a doubt. You know, because he was the only one playing well. You know, unfortunately, Harry Maguire as captain, I think, was a bit unsettled by his arrival. And I think there were camps, there were divisions. You know, there were players who had given up. You know, you saw Cavani and Pogba and Lingard, people knew they were leaving. They didn't care. And I think there were, you know, and Rangnick, the interim manager, thought, well, I'm off. I'm off in May. He didn't care either. To think, you know, like in terms of the captaincy, you know, that is Ten Hag's to solve. That's his problem to solve. Do you give it to? I wrote a piece on this last week. Do you have your faith in Maguire, or do you actually think Maguire's going to become a better player without the captaincy? Just be a player. Just worry about that. Don't worry about the armband. Take that away from him. Or do you give it to Ronaldo? But that's probably going to be his last season. Is he going to play every game? So with Rangnick, he could dodge that and think, look, I'm out of here in May. So with Ten Hag can't. So hard decisions will have to be made. And I think that festered and it seeped into the dressing room. But yeah, I think there'll be certainly more unified from pre-season.
Are you pro Maguire keeping the armband, or do you think it's a hard one, because it's also like we've heard, you know, from even people on the podcast and things like that, you know, like he's a nice guy and he seems like, I do feel like his heart's in it. Do you know what I mean? And I think, you know, like you say, is that going to help him by saying, you know what, fresh start, don't even worry about this? Or, you know, as we know, people are going to turn it around like, oh, he's not been fit enough to wear the captain's armband, he doesn't deserve it anyway, so I'm glad he's not got it, or how people are going to perceive it. And, you know, like some of the names you mentioned, you know, you got like Ronaldo, Bruno Fernandes, he likes to gob off quite a bit, doesn't he? So, you know, David De Gea, you know, do you have a goalkeeper as your captain? Where do you stand on this? Because it's such a big debate.
I'm glad I don't have to make the decision because I'm unsure. I mean, I ran a poll on my Twitter account and I wrote a piece about it. But there is no. It's really slim pickings because you have Maguire, who has lost respect in the dressing room. He did certainly last year. It's very hard to lead people when you're playing badly yourself. I think he might benefit from not having the captaincy. Then you've got Ronaldo. He's only going to be there for a year. You've got De Gea. I still think there's a question mark about De Gea. I don't think United will be in for a keeper, but De Gea is not a Ten Hag keeper. He likes players who distribute and play more from the back. That's not his game. Do you give it captaincy to somebody like that? And then and Bruno Fernandes isn't a captain. You know, he was given the captaincy when he was playing well, but he's so petulant. He's so petulant. He, as you said, gobs off, moans.
I feel like you've got to be quite level-headed.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you have to have that respect. So I think United do have a problem with the captaincy. I mean, if Harry Maguire, I think the one I can't get over was when United lost 5-0 to Liverpool, and Maguire went in front of the TV cameras. He said, "I'm only here because I have to be." And I just thought, you know, I just went, oh.
What were you thinking?
I know, it's like literally,
yeah,
but you don't say that out loud. He's dragged out the dressing room, right, you're the captain, speak. I'm here because I have to be. I thought, you're a grown man, you're a Manchester United captain. And, you know, sorry to hark back to the past, but somebody like myself who grew up with Brian Robson, Steve Bruce and Roy Keane, it just thought, are you really United captaincy material? So
maybe get him a bit of media training this summer.
Yeah, I know.
But I get what you mean. As much as I think his heart's in it, has he got that kind of, I don't know, that Roy Keane kind of side to him where it's like on the pitch and, you know, like footballers that you speak to, you know, people, you know, you can't take it personally on the pitch. Like you have got to, if you've got to be told by your captain, you are told by your captain. You leave it on the pitch. But
the problem is with Maguire, and it has been over the last year, is that, you know, players have and would look at him and go, "What are you talking about?
Yeah, like, why are you talking to me?
Why are you
telling me what to do? You
sort your own game.
Yeah.
Sort your own game out." So you have to have that respect. And these guys did, in terms of Bruce, Robson, Keane. They had that. They were untouchable in terms of their form. But some will be, look, you want to wind your neck in. You know, what are you talking about? You know, how about you think about stopping goals first before having a go?
Yeah.
So it is so difficult. It is so difficult.
Yeah.
And what do you think about behind the scenes? If we sort of don't think about on the pitch, you know, there's been so much talk about the Glazers and, you know, like the CEO, etc. Where do you sort of stand on changes that need to be made there?
I mean, obviously Richard Arnold starting, and this will be his first full season. There have been a lot of changes in as staff in the media department and the scouting department, and you know, Matt Judge, the negotiators. So, you know, Ed Woodward having, you know, left a few months ago as well. I don't know really. I mean, you would hope that, you know, the United haven't won a trophy for 5 years. That is the job of a football club. That's the ultimate aim, and they haven't done it. So fresh. I mean, Richard Arnold was there before, so he's not completely fresh blood. You would hope that with a new manager as well, that there would be, you know, more streamlined and a better approach, more success. I think the other people had been sort of beaten down by it really, and obviously made mistakes. So you have to hope that will have some impact on the pitch this season.
Yeah, absolutely.
And obviously, you know, looking at the moves that Manchester City are making, the moves that Liverpool are making, you know, it is scary at the end of the day because, you know, we're already playing catch up and teams like them are making these steps up, and it's even more of a chase. And obviously, you know, we will be facing Liverpool soon, and, you know, I don't know if I'll be tuning in, I'll be honest. Where do you, I mean, I think from my perspective, let us know what you think. It's almost like you can't even think about that because we're not on that level. We're not going to be on that level anytime soon. So what do we need to focus on, and what do you feel are like the actual realistic expectations? Because like maybe, you know, catching up to the likes of, you know, Spurs and Arsenal and stuff, you know, I think is definitely doable. But regarding, you know, Liverpool, City, Chelsea, we kind of need to put that to the back of our mind.
Yes.
What do you feel is a reasonable expectation?
I think, that dreaded word that was around at the end of Solskjaer's time, progress. I mean, you just want to see progress.
Yeah.
You want to see players improving, but you want an identity. You want Ten Hag to them to buy into his football philosophy, to get him playing how he wants to play. And you want to see, you want to know what to expect from a United performance. You know what to expect from a City under Pep and Liverpool under Klopp. United have been a mess. 3-4 managers all thrown together, players bought by different managers all thrown together. It was a mess. Rangnick came in with high pressing. He didn't do any of that after Crystal Palace. United, it was a mess. You want to see pride, you want to see an identity, and I hope you'll get that at Ten Hag. And I think there has to be patience. United are not going to win the Premier League this season, but you want to see them playing with an identity and finishing maybe third or fourth, getting back to the Champions League. That's crucial, as we're finding out this summer. That's such a calling card for a lure for players to sign players. That's how you get better. And you want to see and I think, as we touched on before, you want to see Ten Hag improving players on the coaching pitch, on the training pitch rather. You want to see him bringing out players that you thought, geez, I didn't know how he had that in him. Be it Luke Shaw or Harry Maguire or Varane as he enters latter part of his career. Rashford. There are so many good players that have been playing badly. So I think that that's the exciting thing to see how he improves the players that are already there.
And as you say, with the rebuild, it is going to take patience. It's not going to happen overnight. But are you pretty confident then that a top 4 finish next season could be doable?
I think, it was doable this season, really.
Yeah.
As dreadful as United were, really, they gave up. When they had nothing more to play for, they could have easily finished. You look at all the defeats they had towards the end of the season. So they could, with as bad a team as they had this year, they could have finished 4th. So with new blood, new manager, the 4th is the least they should be hoping for. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your insights today, Sam. It's
That's
been a
right.
pleasure to have you on. For everyone watching, what are you sort of up to next? What are your plans over the summer with your work?
Just covering United and writing about the transfers or the next season. I've been a fan since 1980, so it's both a love of mine as a supporter, but also balancing it with covering it as a writer. So I'll be continue to do that.
And for everyone watching who would like to follow you on social media and keep up to
We
date with all the
like to do a
transfer
social
news.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
Where can they find you?
Just on Twitter, at Sam Pilger on Twitter. So come and abuse me there. Yeah.
Brilliant. And Andrew, what are you up to next?
Oh, just busy. Women's Euros is fast
Nice.
approaching. We're doing some work on that. As I said before we started filming, I've been on a few early shifts for the last 3 weeks, so sleep has been a priority. But looking forward to the Women's Euros definitely, and pre-season when it comes round, and just watching Fabrizio Romano's Twitter for a here we go and Man United. So that's about it really.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the women's football. It'll be really
Yes.
nice to see that back on the screens, won't it?
How about you?
What am I up to? Commonwealth Games.
Yes.
Potentially, I've been doing a few interviews ahead of the Women's Africa Cup of Nations. So, sort of kicking that off, doing little bits with FIFA. So, keeping busy over the summer. As you say, it's never downtime in football, really. So,
Absolutely.
keeping busy.
Yeah.
Thanks all so much for watching. If you haven't already, please make sure you like, comment and subscribe. And we'll catch you very soon.